Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the United Front Football Podcast with me, myself, and Mr. Breezy. We're going to do, as we always do, start off with your football hot takes. If you want to get involved in the football hot takes, we put a tweet out every time we're going to do an episode over on Twitter. It's at United Frontcast. So go give us a follow, get involved, and you can have your say on next week's or following episodes. So we'll start off. We'll just jump straight into it. Cameron Hewitt says, don't talk about Michael Oliver, I dare you. I think we're going to have to, a little bit, but we'll get into that a little bit later, because I'll be honest, we've not talked to each other about it, so I don't even know what your stance on any of it is, and similarly, mine to you. Kind of carrying on from the official debate, though, Rinstars said on Discord, I think on your Discord, why does the fourth official apparently have more power than the actual referee? Anthony Taylor overruling the ref in the Forest v Brighton game for the Gibbs white red card, where has he now been removed from his duties? Where he has been removed from his duties. Sorry, it's an interesting one. That I kind of, until I read that, I had to go back because I didn't watch the game live. I watched Match of the Day, and I kind of at the end of the game, I'd kind of switched off a little bit, I'm not gonna, all the analysis. So I had to go back and go over it again, but. I don't, what's your take on it anyway? I'll kind of come in. I'll chime in after with it.
I'm the same as you. I didn't watch the full game either. I just saw. I haven't even seen the goalsmith, to be honest. I've seen the foul. It's really harsh, I think, as a yellow card, and I can understand why the referee's not originally gone to giving the booking. It's a bit clumsy, it's a bit full force, but from sort of when you first initially see it in real time, there's no real point talking about the replay of it because the referee hasn't got that available on the pitch, especially when it comes to the yellow card. He's not going to go to VAR to have a look at the replay for it. So I think in real time, I can understand why the referee felt like he won the ball because that's what it certainly looked like. In terms of Anthony Taylor being a full official and overriding him, though, it's a bit like, why? Do you know what? Unless he's privy to a replay, the referee isn't, and that's why he's done it. Then maybe that's a reason to get involved and say, actually, he's not got the ball. We should, and it's it looks like records you should book him for this. But if that's not the case, then I'm not familiar with anything like that happening previously, where a fourth official has had to go and speak to the referee and say this is what you should do. Linesmen, you've seen that numerous times. That's kind of what they're there for. They're the assistants. But for full officials to do it. Very weird. I don't know if that's. I can't remember an incident where that's happened in recent memory, anyway. Let alone the last couple of years. So yeah, very very weird. And the fact that he's now been removed from duty probably suggests that he maybe shouldn't have got involved.
Yeah. For me, it's. I kind of. For me, I think it's a foul. I know he gets the ball, but he's fully clattered through the back of him and fully wiped him out. If it had been a yellow immediately, I don't think anyone would have had an issue with it. Yeah, you could argue, he got the ball. It's but he's actually completely cleaned him out from behind to get the ball. I think a yellow's fair. The only thing, and I'll be completely honest, I've just thought of this now. I should have really gone back and rewatched it and seen where the linesman is and what view the fourth official and the ref have got. But say the ref's a little bit away from play. It was pretty much in the middle of the park. I wonder whether the fourth officials had a really clear view of it. The referee's gone, oh no, he's got the ball, and he goes, he's not really. He's absolutely wiped him out, and then that's why the yellow cards happen. And if that's the case, I'm fine with it. You want referees to get the right view and the right decision. If he's still an official, he's a fourth official, but he's still an official on the pitch. And if he can give a bit of advice, as someone who's seen the challenge better or seen an incident better, then I think it's fair enough. I think just the fact that, like you say, there's not really much of a precedent for it, and I think that's what's kind of throwing people on it and stuff. And like I say, I think the actual decision's fine. The actual decision's fair. He's already on a yellow card. He's absolutely wiped him out. Yeah, he's got the ball, but he's completely cleaned him. And if it had been a yellow straight away, I don't think there'd have been an issue, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's one of them, isn't it? Because there's no real precedent for this that we're aware of anyway. Obviously, if anyone knows of anything, do let us know in the comments or whatever. But I think that's the thing that drives people mad, because it's that thing now of people are now going to go looking for examples of has this happened before, and if not, then why is it happening in this game, sort of thing. And then questions are going to be, to be honest, rightfully asked of PGMOL to say, well, why has that happened now? Was this a new rule? Why is it not a thing that's really been made, fans that haven't been made more aware of or whatever? But I think that's the thing that drives people up the wall more than anything. Again, it goes back to that thing we always say of like lack of consistency, lack of like real, like consistent rules throughout the season when it comes to officials. And like I say, I think people are just hitting a bit of just getting a bit sick of that side of it. And obviously, there's going to be examples of the City Arsenal game, and where two incidents happen and not the same outcome happens that drives people up the wall. So I'm sure we'll talk about. Yeah, I think I'd imagine that's where most of the frustration comes from. Unless if you're a Forest fan, the frustration just comes from the fact that you think it's unjust. But that's every football fan, right? I feel like if most football fans supporting their club had that happen to them, you'd feel because you take it a lot more personally, a lot like, oh, this is like the worst scandal ever, because obviously you're a lot more emotional attachment to it, right?
Yeah, and I think as well, like, I'm just getting tired of seeing Twitter in uproar looking for some reason to blame a ref for something. Like, the dude's cleaned him out. It's a second yellow. Like, can we go back? Even with VAR and like contentious decisions and shit, it's not like the contentious decisions didn't happen in the past, but everyone just kind of, it felt like got over it a little bit quicker. Maybe they didn't. They just didn't have a voice, like with Twitter and social media and stuff like that. So maybe that's just it. But yeah, I think everyone just needs to get over it. It was his second yellow and he got sent off.
On the back. I was going to say on the back of that, someone else in my Discord off the back of that, like Rinstar's comment, just went on complete like fucking 3-paragraph rant about Andy Taylor, and he was like, "Found the Chelsea fan."
Oh God, is that not a permaban? Being a Chelsea fan.
I can't say anything this week, so I've just got to take it. Yeah.
Well, we'll move on from. Sorry, you take the next bit.
Yeah, so I was to say we had another one from the Discord. Actually, it's a very very simple comment that made me chuckle. Sebi Rees, who's an Arsenal fan, just asking a very simple question: what's with Kyle Walker and his love tapping for Gabriel's ass?
Maybe. Hey, I don't know. I've not touched it. It might be really good. At least it's not. It's not what's his name from Wolves levels.
But, Mascara.
Yeah. No, didn't get that weird.
A lot more gentle.
Yeah, no, I mean, if he'd have ridden his ass a little bit more, he might have stopped him getting the header at the back post, which was like two identical. The thing I love watching it, because I was working when the game was on, so I had it on the radio. But like going back and watching it on Match of the Day was like, it was hilarious when they did the side by side of the two corners. It was like literally exactly the same and literally completely unmarked on both opportunities. Like, you got the warning, lads. Like maybe you should have actually followed your man. That was pretty mad. And I mean, Scott's kind of like chimed in on that City game as well. He's saying Haaland throwing the ball at Gabriel's head was so unbelievably pathetic, but objectively absolutely hilarious.
Yeah,
I genuinely like. It's the fact that he plays for City. If he didn't play for City, I'd absolutely love him. Like. He's an absolute piss boiler, but also probably the best striker in the world. Like he is ridiculous, isn't he? He's also put a couple of other points in there. Is that what does it goes on in a player's mind to make them attempt a 2-footed tackle, jumping 2-footed tackle? I mean, we'll get onto Alessandro Martinez challenge a little bit later on when we talk about the Man United game. But he does also talk about Enzo Maresca. He's saying. Maresca is a good manager. He reluctantly admits if he continues to get a tune out of the Chelsea squad, they could get top 4, even win a cup, along with becoming the European champs, winning the best European trophy. Wink, wink. His style of play can be hard to stop. I mean, it's a good jumping off point to go and talk about the Chelsea-West Ham game, I think that. Obviously, you were there yourself. No, let's just glaze over that. It happened. Let's get over it. I mean, I didn't watch it in real time. I watched the highlights back, obviously, Match of the Day. It was I don't know if Chelsea were good. They were obviously competent, but the defending was terrible. Really poor. I thought not Kilman. Who was the other centre half? Mavropanos. I thought he had a career bad game. Like he was he was so far up the pitch every time ball was being played through, and he was 10 yards off the pace. Like he was completely out of line. He was up in midfield half the time, like just leaving a massive chasm. And Wan-Bissaka was getting drawn over to his man like type marking, and just left like huge holes everywhere. And you got punished 2 or 3 times. I mean, there could have been more goals from that almost exact play every time. It was just like clockwork, up, back, and through, and you were away. There's only so much ground Kilman can cover. I don't know if like what it looked like in the stadium, and what the feeling was like, but like it was
pretty fucking bad.
Well, obviously, you get a much better view there, don't you? Like it's not just like little
you do.
a little camera view, but yeah. Like I'll hand over to you for the game and your thoughts on it. Therapy session time.
Yeah, there's not really much I can add to that. It was defensively completely inept. It felt like no one knew what a counter attack was prior going into the game. Do you know what I mean? It was just like I think it was the third goal in particular, because I think it comes from our corner, and the ball just gets cleared up, and all of a sudden it's a 3v1, and it's like, right, well, so how's that happen then? Like when you've got like. When you look at Chelsea's attackers, like, yeah, you've got Cole Palmer, a really good ball carrier, like Jadon Sancho when he wants to be, a good ball carrier. You've got Nicholas Jackson, who's really pacey and direct and will just run at people. And we kept finding ourselves in those positions all the time. It was just an absolute disaster class from everybody involved, players and manager. Yeah, just like I say, absolutely awful. And I'm struggling to put my finger on what that particular issue is, because for all the positivity I've sort of spoken about West Ham this season, obviously I'm being, I think compared to last season, for obvious reasons, with being a new manager and loads of new players, I'm being a lot more lenient this year compared to last year when you're 4 years into, under 4 years into a management cycle, David Moyes. I'm going to be a lot more lenient on someone who's just come in and is only playing his 5th game. But for all the positives that have been there in the previous games, the one sort of constant worry has been that we have looked a bit shaky defensively, despite the fact Kilman's looked really good, Wan-Bissaka's looked really good. Teams have found it quite easy to play through us on transition and on counter-attacks especially. And I don't know whether it's like a midfield problem, because obviously Guido Rodriguez got subbed, half hour into the game, which is never a good sign. And I like what I've seen of him. I just think that is a player who is 30 and is struggling to match up with the pace of the Premier League, and it's just going to take time for him to get used to it. And it feels like it felt like he was getting used to the pace, and then Fulham and this game against Chelsea happened, and he's been exposed a little bit. The setup from the start was wrong. Like, I don't know whether we were playing a 3, like, overall, or it was a case of when we're out of possession, Alvarez drops in between the 2 centre backs and allows, or when we're in possession, sorry, Alvarez drops in between the 2 centre backs and the wing backs push forward, because that is something that Lopetegui has done in the past with his previous sides. But it just looked completely disjointed, and no one really knew what they were doing, which is a concern. And that can happen. Like, when you think that Kilman and Wan-Bissaka are new to the defence, and Emerson and Mavropanos, who were there last year, played in a completely different defensive setup last year. You've got a different midfielder in Rodriguez ahead of them compared to what Souček would offer. And I think it just looked like it felt very obvious that the players are still, or are not as close to understanding Lopetegui's style of play as we maybe thought they would have been by now, which is fine. Like I'm not thrilled about the fact we got battered and looks completely inept, like, defensively, but there is some, I think there has got to be some allowance for it. And like, I think the disappointing thing, not the most disappointing thing, but one of the big disappointments for me, really, I was coming out the ground and, like, I follow a lot of, like, West Ham. I'm sure you do with Man United. I follow a lot of, like, West Ham based journalists and stuff, like Roshan Thomas from The Athletic and Jacob Steinberg from The Guardian and a few others. It just kind of feels like the knives are out already for Lopetegui. And I am at that point where I'm just like, we are still 5 games in. And I'm seeing, like, people throw things out like, we haven't played well in a single game all season. Like, we've lost a first 3 home games for the first time in our history, but which is like, okay, yeah, we have. But we've also had to play Aston Villa, Manchester City, and a Chelsea side who 1 week turn up, look like they don't really know what they're doing, and struggle to break sides like Crystal Palace down, or they'll go and put 6 past Wolves. This is like they blow very hot and cold Chelsea. You don't really know what side's going to turn up. So I think context is important there. And I'm seeing a lot of revisionism on how good the transfer window was, and actually the recruitment needs to be questioned and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, we're 5 games in. Like, I know it was a bad day. It was a really, really bad day, and I'm not trying to skirt over that. But I think the only hope you can really have from a West Ham perspective is sometimes when you've got a new manager in and it's no new players and stuff, you kind of need a game like that where you just get absolutely trounced and it all goes wrong, so that everyone can go, right, let's sort it. Like, this is a wake up call now. We're at the moment, we're not as good as we think we are, and this is what we need to work even harder to get where we want to be. That's the only real positive and hope that I can sort of take from how bad it was. I mean, thankfully we've got a really easy game away at Anfield in midweek in the cup, so that's a good that's a good palate cleanser after the weekend. But yeah, like I say, a lot of typical overreaction. Again, knives out on the manager because he wasn't everyone's first choice. And I think, again, as bad as it was, there still needs to be some patience. It's still very early days.
Yeah, and like you say, you're right at the start with a lot of new players and a new manager, like in bringing in a new system and a new way of playing. And it's only 5 games in. Like you're not at the end of this kind of cycle of where you're going to be. Like you're not going to be as new to this at any point after this, and you don't learn anything from winning games. And like, it's not like saying, "Oh, you need to go out there and get battered at home by Chelsea." Like, you don't want that to happen, obviously. But at the same time, like, you're learning what's not working, what's not going right. And it's interesting you bring that up. Like, you weren't sure whether you were playing a 3 or a 4 at the back. I couldn't tell either. It looked to me like Alvarez was being pulled from midfield to mark Jackson up front. And then Mavropanos was stepping up into midfield to challenge the number 10. And it's like, surely that should be being handed off. Surely you'd think Alvarez, the midfielder, would be pressing up into the number 10. But it all just looked disjointed. And like, you saw Lopetegui at the side losing his mind. And I wonder whether that's the same thing. Like, why are you challenging him? Why are you man-marking him? Like, you need to be handing these players off. But like I say, it's the start of this cycle. It's a lot of new players playing with each other, like, for the first few times. Things will get better and will improve. And I think, like, even though Chelsea kind of cut through you quite a lot, I think he created some decent chances. Like, I think there was decent chances to get back into the game. Second half, I thought, like, he obviously changed. Well, Rodriguez came off, didn't he? And Souček came on.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, just the balance of the team seemed a little bit better in the second half. Like, sucker punch straight after kickoff aside.
Yeah, third goal killed us.
Yeah. But even then, I thought, like, some decent build-up play and some, like, I really like that attacking setup of having Kudus, Somerville, and Paqueta behind Jared Bowen, or depending who you're playing up as the striker. I think I like what that offers. I thought Somerville looked really lively.
Yeah, he was good.
I thought if that Stonewall penalty is given. Like,
yeah, thank you.
That could have brought you right back in the game. It's a tough one. Like, it is a penalty.
Yeah.
Like, but I can see why it wasn't overturned. Like, it's one of those things. Like, that should have been a penalty. It shouldn't be a case of it needs overturning. It should just be being verified, rather than it being. He's right behind it. He's right on top of that, and you can see him get spun around by his arm, and he falls over a bit. But like,
you have to though.
Like, or else you're not going to get it. Like, if he just turns around, it's like it's not going to be a penalty, is it? So like, that could have changed the game. It could have changed the balance of the game. It could have changed the flow of it. And obviously, like, you're coming out in the second half trying to get on the front foot to get back into the game, and you just get sucker punched for the 3-0. It's a shame. But, there was a couple of decent saves, a couple of good opportunities that were missed. I thought Kudus and Somerville looked mint. And I think once they start clicking, once that front line starts clicking, I'm sure you'll be fine. It's just taking a little bit longer. And bear in mind as well, this Chelsea side, even though they're an absolute basket case, the vast majority of these guys have been playing together for the last 12, 18 months. Like, this is the base of the side that was playing really well at the end of last season, that won 5 of the last 7 games, I think it was. And, like, they've started well this year. Whether they can keep it going and keep it flowing is another matter altogether. But, like, it's a very talented Chelsea side. It's just everything else around it that's the issue. There's nothing wrong with the quality of the players they got at their disposal.
No, absolutely not. And I think just to make a couple final points about West Ham before I do talk about Chelsea, I think, like, the biggest criticism I've seen of Lopetegui is that he doesn't know his best team yet. It's like, well, yeah, obviously. Again, loan new players. He's got all the old players and stuff. He's still trying to figure that out. And I think, whilst I agree, I do like the attacking makeup, I'm still not sold on Jared Bowen playing down the middle. And I think, actually, if he hadn't got injured on international duty, we would have seen Nicholas Füllkrug in the last 2 games. But he's got injured. Like, nothing we can really do about that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the attack functions without with Füllkrug up top, a bit more of a vocal point. I'm not saying drop Bowen. I actually think we're getting to a point now. I think Paqueta's place in the team needs to be talked about, because it's been And if he was a new signing, again, I'd be a lot more lenient, but he's been here long enough now and he's playing in his supposed favourite position. He's offering nothing at the moment. And he feels he's turning into a bit of a one-trick pony in the sense that all he seems to do is play a couple of 1-2s, get the ball, and try that dink pass over the top of the defence. But the problem is everyone else has cottoned onto it because he did it so many times last year, and Bowen and Kudus and that fed off it. It's just teams know now, when Paqueta bits, well, let's just drop back a little bit. So that when he looks for that dink, we can just either head it clear or let it go out for a goal kick. So I think moving forward, I wouldn't be against seeing like Bowen on the right, Somerville on the left, and Kudus in the middle behind a Füllkrug. So you've got a big guy who can sort of link the play up. And then if he needs to sort of lay off this guy who's just a fucking freak at dribbling the ball around defenders, it's a really good option to have with Somerville and Bowen either side. So that would be something I'd like to see moving forwards. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
Or even Bowen off Füllkrug as like a bit of a little finding the gaps in the space, because he's great at finding little spaces and to operate in and really deft touches. And I think Kudus, I liked him last year when he was playing off the left and through the middle, but I really like him on that right. I think he's lethal.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, he's because even though I know he's left-footed, he's not only left-footed. Like you don't often get wingers like they'll either cut in or they'll go outside. He keeps you guessing. Like unpredictability is great for those kind of players, and he'll chip inside a couple of times. He'll go around the outside. He'll whip it across. He'll stand it up. He'll cut back. Like I love him, man. I think he's a wicked player.
Yeah, he's mint. It's difficult to find this like go and get this like brilliant player, and he's like his best position is the exact same position as our other best player in Jarrod Bowen. So it's kind of like have to move shit around and whatnot, but like, it's the way it goes. But yeah, everyone just needs to relax. But I think in terms of Chelsea, like I'll admit, like obviously we did our Premier League preview, and I think I said I could see them finishing like lower mid-table because I just thought all the noise around the club and the amount of players that are there would be too much of a distraction and be too much of an issue. But actually, and I've got to give Maresca his props here, I think he's handled the whole situation really, really well in the sense that he's gone, look, I'm not the one signing the players, and I'm not the one who signed the players that were here before. This is my 25-man squad. Everyone else, they need to find a new club. It's got nothing. Like, I'm sorry they're in this position, but they're not in my plans. So
yeah, I literally can't have more players in my squad. Like, exactly. It's not like he's going, oh, I don't like these guys, they're gone. It's like, no, I can have 25 players. These are the 25 players that I've chosen to work with. It's a shame that all these other guys are gonna have to go and figure it out. Like, no, I agree. I think and I think they kind of like picked up where they left off last year. They're playing pretty well. Like, I still think that midfield is massively overpaid for, but like it's actually starting to click a little bit. The attack's good. And actually, like I was saying this last year, like if Nicholas Jackson can just kind of breathe rather than panic when he gets through, he'll score 20-odd goals. Like he got 14 goals last year, and everyone was saying he was terrible. Yeah. Like I think he was like fifth top scorer in the Premier League last year or something. Like he had a really good season, and was apparently crap in a crap side. Like so, like if he can just kind of, like I say, if he can just keep his head a little bit and play like he did against you guys, like just find the seam and keep his cool in front of goal, he'll be fine. I must say, his first goal, a keeper should be saving that. That was the horror goalkeeping. Like to go basically from the byline, he shouldn't have got there. But I think like as far as what Alvarez could have done from where he was on the pitch, like to kind of show him onto the byline is all right. Yeah. Keepers shouldn't be getting nutmegged from the touchline. Like that was shocking.
I watched it. Obviously, that was down the end where I sit, and I don't know whether he was expecting a cutback because it felt like he sort of dived sort of away from the goal, expecting him to sort of cross it, and he just got done. But it's not even. I can't even give Ario that as an excuse because he's a much better goalkeeper than that.
Well, even in this game, he made some brilliant saves. Like that one to save the header from point blank from, was it Nkunku?
Oh, that was wicked.
Yeah. He's a very good goalkeeper. It's just it's just an absolute mare. It had shades of like the David De Gea meltdowns, like where he'd pull off unbelievable saves and then just kind of get beat at his near post, like looking the wrong way. Like what are you doing, mate?
Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come. But I'll have to see. But yeah, no, I think Chelsea are going to be really interesting this season. I have to say, I know it's only been a game and like one game and 20-minute and a 20-minute cameo. Sancho's looking all right. Like again, I don't think you can really read too much into that in terms of what he's going to be like for the entire season. But Maresca obviously feels like he can get a tune out of him and feels like he's got he's got something in his locker to sort of get the best out of Sancho long term moving forward. And if he can do that, like I say, Chelsea have got a pretty formidable attack, and with the way the top 4 races looking this season, they could very well be in that contention. So it's going to be interesting. And it's very likely, like we've seen, I don't think Cole Palmer got registered for the Conference League squad, right? So I think he's even gone as far to sort of go like, well, no, I've got a conference. I think I joked about the start of the season. He's literally got a Conference League squad and a squad for the league, which is perfect. Like it's the best of both worlds, because they've got, even the players who are on their Premier League squad who are playing in the Conference League, they're more than good enough to go and win that competition. So, like, and it's not going to affect their league form too much.
Yeah, on the Sancho thing, like his ability's never been in question. Like he's an incredibly talented footballer. It's just what's between the ears. Like, but maybe him, because he's from London, he's from South London. Like maybe moving back down there, like a little bit more like familiar surroundings. A manager that obviously is going to put him, put his trust in him. Obviously, I don't want to see him do too well because he's gone to Chelsea. But like, I don't want to see a talented player who I really liked before United were interested in him, before he joined United. Like, I think he's a talented footballer. I always want to see good, talented young English players do well. I don't want to see him kind of fade away into nothingness. But it's just another string to that pretty scary Chelsea front line of, like, obviously you got Palmer, Madueke, and Sancho playing behind Jackson. You've got players like João Felix and Kunku, Pedro Neto, like, can come off the bench. Like Mudryk, as kind of hot and cold as he is, he's scary. He's still very quick. And actually, towards the end of last season, he started to kind of click a little bit. So, you never know what could actually happen with that. And they've got some all right defenders as long as Axel Disaster doesn't get on the pitch. Like,
he came on and did a fuking pirouette against Harry Cresswell. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was like,
oh no, I'm off, lads.
yeah. I was just like, I just sat there. I was just like, oh, I can't believe this. But yeah, so
ultimate salt in the wound.
Oh yeah, it was like, kick me while I'm down, why don't you? Christ, but we move. It's the game's the game, I guess.
Well, Scott also mentioned. We'll move on from that. We'll save your anguish. He did mention about the thing about Leacher. He said, well, I'll read it again. One more thing: what goes on in a player's mind to make them attempt a 2-footed jump tackle? Obviously, they're talking about Lisandro Martinez. I mean, it was a great tackle. What are you talking about? You got the ball, game's gone. All right, absolutely nothing wrong with that. Obviously,
it looked like one of those animations you get in Football Manager. You know, when you see it and you go, "Oh, that's a red card," but because they haven't got like enough animations to show a bad tackle, which is that one. It is literally that. Yeah, it's like, oh, he's got to go for that, and then he killed him. He decapitated the poor bloke.
It could have been killed.
It could have been killed.
Obviously, it was I don't know what he was thinking. He has got that in him though. Like, and I kind of like that he's got it in him. I just wish it wouldn't mean he does that kind of thing. Because like now he's back fit and playing well. Like we've seen how much we missed him last year. Like just his ability to be like, even though he's 5'9", like he doesn't lose duels. He's really good. He reads the game really well. He's brilliant on the ball. Like he's a very, very good defender. And having De Ligt next to him, like I can't believe that Souness was calling him lightweight and like, it's a bad signing for Man United. He's come in and he's legitimately looked. And there's probably a bit of bias there, but I think he's looked like one of the best centre backs in the league. He's been outstanding. Maybe it's just comparatively to watching Johnny Evans and Casemiro play last year. It's like, Jesus Christ, an actual centre back.
Yeah. I've not watched anywhere near enough of him in the United shirt really to sort of comment. But I've always been a fan of De Ligt ever since I saw him play for Ajax and like sort of followed his career, and I'm surprised he's moved around as much as he has. Because it always felt like he was going to go right to the very top, but hopefully United under a manager that he knows and brought him through, like he's found a sort of a long-term home now, and he's still only like what, 24, 25? Like
I think he's just turned 25. He turned
20... great, like, not to be too soccer I am, it's a great age.
Great age. But no, I'd like him. He speaks really well. Like he's obviously got like leadership experience. He's just he looks like a United player. I don't know what, like, when you have that mental image of, or you just see a player in your club shirt and you go, that fits. Like I thought Van Persie had that. Van Persie, when he put that United shirt on, I was like, yeah, he should have been wearing that for quite a while, actually.
Kind of like, yeah, I actually feel like Kane and even Declan Rice actually for a period had that, whereas like I can just fucking see him in a United kit and it works.
Yeah. Harry Kane there, drill down the front, you know.
Yeah. But I didn't get to watch the game. I was busy on the Saturday. It was the late kick on Saturday, right? But it seems like I didn't miss much. But it's depending on what way you look at it, depending whether your glass half full or half empty. I guess it's either a good result or a bad result for United. But what's your takeaway from the result and the performance?
I think result and performance are two very different things there. I think
absolutely.
I think the performance is the best that I've seen us play in a long, long time. Absolutely dominated the ball, controlled midfield, created good chances. Should have been 2 or 3 up by half time. Like, yeah, not Johnston. It's Henderson, Dean Henderson in goal.
Yeah.
Had just a world. It was like, not to be too cliche, it was the most Football Manager of games I've ever watched. Where the goalie, the backup goalie you sold to a club 2 years ago, sold from the club 2 years ago, comes back, puts in a 9.9 rating, saves everything after you've dominated the game. Like, it was the only thing that could have made it even worse was that one breakaway, and they scored it. Like, like that goal at the end of the game that would have just made it the most FM game. But I thought we played really, really well. Like, I like Xerxes. I like what he brings to the team. He's a big bloke. He's like,
huge.
Size of the lad, in awe it.
I didn't realize how big he was until I saw him make his debut. I was like, he's massive.
Yeah, well, it was funny. I was watching the game with chatting with the guys in my Discord. Like, when he first signed, someone said he looks like a super mutant. Like, so he's just an absolute unit.
But nowadays, it's a compliment. Like,
yeah.
Everyone's wondering.
Yeah. Meaning that as a compliment. But yeah, he's got like. I hate to be the good touch for a big man, but like his first touch and link up play and awareness of the things that are going on around him is really, really good. I just feel like him and Bruno are kind of getting in each other's way a little bit. I'll come on to Bruno a little bit later, but like I thought he played really well. I thought Rashford was unfortunate to be rotated, but I assume that means he's going to be starting on Wednesday. And Garnacho's been great off the bench. Ahmad's not deserved to be dropped. Like, it's a good position to be in. You know, you can't play every player every game, and you know Garnacho's earned a start. Like, it probably means that maybe Ahmad sits out the game on Wednesday or something. But it's a nice issue to have. Eriksen and Mainu in midfield, especially when they were playing with a back three. Like, there was just that extra bit of space in midfield. I thought Eriksen dialed back the years. He was absolutely in control of the game. And both fullbacks played really well. Like, it was just a really, really good performance. Like, the performance was right up there. Just didn't win it. Like I say, should have been 2 or 3 up at half time. It seemed like there was a little bit of desperation towards the end. When Zirkzee came off, it felt like we'd lost a little bit of... Obviously, Højlund came on, but he's way off match sharpness. And Rashford came on up front a little bit as well. Like, they don't offer the same kind of thing. It's a very in-behind kind of threat that they bring. And by that point, Palace was like, they've got a back five sitting like 10 yards deeper by that time of the game. It just wasn't going to work. So yeah, frustrating. A really frustrating game from Bruno, who I think, kind of to mirror what you were saying before, it's only 5 games in, but he's not had a good game this year. And he's been the guy that, even when stuff's not coming off for him, he'll still put in a 7 out of 10 because he's everywhere. He's challenging things. He's like at least trying to make things happen. The guy gave the ball away like, I think it was like more than 25 times on the weekend. Like, whether that was like attempted through balls or like killer balls or like bad touch that like goes into a defender. It's all in the final third. Like, but yeah, he still gave the ball away a hell of a lot, and nothing was really coming off for him. And I wonder whether he needs like taking out the firing line or playing in a slightly different role or something, but it's just not working for him right now. And for a guy that's now one of our top earners and the captain and like something that's been built around, like the team's been built around, it is a bit of an issue. I'd like to see him dropped a little bit deeper and see if he can do that dictating the game from a little bit deeper. Like, he can do it. We've seen it in the past. He's got the engine for it. He's got the ability for it. And maybe that would mean like you could play Zirkzee and Rashford through the middle, or Zirkzee and Højlund, or like something like that, and have Zirkzee holding the ball up a little bit. But yeah, it just really wasn't coming off for him, and it's not been coming off for him all year. And at the weekend, it was bad. Like he had a really poor game. So yeah, that's a bit of a concern.
I was going to say it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think there's similarities in terms of the importance of Fernandes to United and the importance of Paqueta to West Ham, in the sense that neither side really has another player like that. Like, obviously, we signed Carlos Soler. I haven't seen enough of him to really get what type of midfielder he is yet. But he's not. You can tell instantly he's not the type of player Lucas Paqueta is, who will find those passes that no one else sees, and like can just have a moment where you just create something out of nothing. And I think Fernandes is very much that for United. There's not really anyone else in the squad like him who can do what he can do. Eriksen might have the technical ability, but he's not got the agility or the sort of, he's not a 10. Like I say, he's probably a bit better sitting a bit deeper, dictating play a little bit. But yeah, it's a problem when that player is off form, because you're like, well, we can't drop him because we've got no one else who can come and do the job that he does. So you kind of just have to play him through the bad form almost.
That, and he's the captain. Like,
yeah.
How do you drop your captain? Like maybe it's just a case of he needs something to come off, because it's been like in quite a few of the games, it's like he's always been great at finding that ball through the lines into a run, and it's been hitting the first defender. It's been behind players. It's not been going to the right place, and I don't know whether he's just like, let's not forget how much football this guy's played. Like not every week, every 3 days for like the past 4 years, and all international tournaments and all everything. Maybe he is a bit burnt out. He's, he doesn't get injured, so he doesn't get those breaks from like little knocks or little niggles and stuff here and there. I think I heard he's missed 1 game in the past 5 years through injury.
That's insane.
Yeah, like, so he's so unbelievably reliable, but by that token as well, like, he plays every game. He doesn't get rested. I think end of last year, I think there was a stat come out like he'd only not started in 3 games since he's been at United when he's been available. Like, that is insane. Maybe he's a little bit burnt out. Maybe he's a little bit fried. Maybe it's just a bit of a poor run of form. And, maybe, like, it's a shame that Mason Mount's out at the minute, because like maybe him coming in for like even for like the last 30 minutes or starting the game and coming off after an hour and Bruno coming on or something to just change things up a little bit. Or like I say, maybe play Xerxes a little bit deeper and let him be that pivot guy. He's a very different kind of player, but he's a guy that could open things up and play things around corners and stuff like that. So that's just a bit of a concern. But everything else I thought was great. Onana once again proving he's the best keeper in the league. Incredible double save. No, that
was outrageous.
Yeah,
I saw that clip. It's mad.
Yeah, he is an incredibly good goalkeeper. He just has like a wild hair up his arse every now and again, and makes something look like a stinker. But show me a keeper that doesn't have a stinker every now and again. I just hope it becomes less frequent. Yeah. I think the thing last year, I don't even think he made that many mistakes. It's like the mistakes that were made were really impacted our season. Like, it was the Champions League, and like as soon as you make those mistakes to lose those games in the Champions League, like he only made 2 mistakes, but it meant we lost 2 games and didn't get out the group stage. Yeah. So after that, everyone's already, as if being the Man United goalkeeper is not like a high pressure enough job. You basically knock us out of the Champions League with a couple of poor performances. Then it's just the microscope's on you all season then. And anyone's looking for, like, people disregard good performances and good saves and all that kind of stuff. Even though he saved the most shots in the Premier League. Probably says more about our defence. But, like, he still saved the most shots in the Premier League last year. Like, he had the best save percentage ratio and all that kind of stuff. Like, he's a very good goalkeeper. He's not just a, play it out from the back merchant.
No.
But yeah, like, hopefully he has a good season. But yeah, I mean, I've kind of waffled on for long enough there. But it was, like I say, frustrating game because I thought we played it really well. I don't think anyone turned in a poor performance other than Bruno. I think everyone everyone else had a good game, just couldn't finish the chances, and it was a little bit of poor finishing, a little bit of bad luck, like hitting the crossbar and then the crossbar again with the rebound is insane. And then
it really is an FM game.
Yeah. RDS fuming. It's
I was going to say, was he in the dugout?
Or... and then like I say, you old backup goalkeeper who's slagged off the club when he left out on loan a couple of years ago, like puts in a worldy performance against you. It was Tom Eaton at Burnley all over again. It was it was that kind of thing. It was very frustrating. But like you were saying about the West Ham fans, and like it just seems like the knives are out. Oh, we've only won 2. That like we've not won 3 games. It's like, well, start of the season. Like, if anyone says nothing's changed, then they haven't watched the games, or they're being willfully ignorant of it. Because we're playing so much better. We're creating so many more chances. We're not porous in defence. We're playing out from the back wall. We've actually got phases of play. We're creating repeatable chances. We're just not finishing them. And once we can start, knocking in, I think we've got like the second highest XG in the league, but we've only scored 5 goals. Like, we
I saw that earlier.
We're playing really, really well.
Or something.
Yeah. Like we've missed the most. I think was it before the game or after the game? I think we've missed 17 big chances.
Yeah,
in the Premier League. The next team after us is on like 12. So like we're just not finishing chances. We're not finishing these goals, and hopefully, like if Højlund can get back up to speed, or everyone can kind of like, if Bruno can get his mojo back a little bit, if Rashford and Garnacho and Ahmad can keep their decent performances, and everyone chips in with a few goals, then we'll be fine. But it's a bit of a concern that we're just not finishing these chances off. But on the flip side of that, it's such an improvement from last year. And granted, a lot of that is because we've actually got defenders fit who can play there. But I think as an actual system, as a balance, as a way that the team plays, and a build up and a rest defense, we just seem a lot more settled. Everyone knows their roles better. Like we're not just letting teams run through the middle of us at will. It happens now and again, but like that'll happen to any team, right? Like just counterattacks happen.
Yeah,
it's not we've faced 20 shots from Everton. Like it's just not happening anymore. So hopefully people don't settle down a little bit. But yeah, as per usual,
they won't.
The online fan contingent is just a bunch of morons for the most part. But
and it doesn't help. And again, I'm sort of relating it back to my West Ham point from earlier. But it doesn't help when there are like if it's like people in the media are sort of like jumping on it as well, because it almost reinforces those opinions of that sort of over dramatic like meltdown things. It's like, well, he's a journalist, so he knows what he's talking about. So he's saying what I'm thinking, and it's like, well, no, he's doing it on Twitter, so there's probably a reason for that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
all that there's an entire radio station that's built their business model around slagging Man United off for the last decade. So like,
well, and just having like promoting ludicrous, like dramatic, over the top football fan meltdowns, right? Like, trying to paint football fans as idiots. It's
like, so try that hard, but
no, you don't. But yeah, it's like, I think Mark Noble said it best after a loss like years ago when he was playing. He was just like, I think I asked about West Ham fans booing. He's like, let's be honest, most people in the stands don't know what they're talking about anyway. And I was like, he's not wrong. I'm sitting there going like, I'm sitting looking at the game, going, oh, I could have done it. So, no, what the fuck do I know? You know what I mean? Like,
I've been wheezing 20 yards past the white line,
Yeah, exactly. That's other people, just to be clear. So, on to, I guess, the game of the weekend, and it actually lived up to expectations for at least 45 minutes before someone decided to be an idiot and ruin the whole thing for everyone. But
who are we talking about?
But yeah, City 2, Arsenal 2. Very early, battle of the title contenders. But like I said, I thought for 45 minutes, it actually lived up to the billing. I thought that first half was really, really entertaining from a neutral perspective. Until, Leo Trossard decided to just not learn lessons from a few weeks ago, I suppose. And like I say, it did kind of ruin the game a little bit until, injury time and all the shit hours where it took place in the second half. But yeah, what was your assessment of the first v second from last season?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch the match live. I said before, I was working. I had it on the radio. I've watched the highlights of it. I do actually want to go back and watch the full replay. I've just not had a chance to do it yet. From what I took from it was like seemed pretty pretty give and take in the first half. Like I said earlier, Man City just not learning the lessons from Arsenal being absolutely lethal at set pieces, leaving the most dangerous defender from set pieces completely free at the back post at every corner is an interesting tactic. I'm not sure if it's going to take on because he keeps doing it against everyone. Like he did it against Spurs, he nearly scored 2 in this game. Like he's just mint at that. But yeah, then Trossard. People are losing their mind saying, "Oh, it shouldn't have been a yellow card for kicking the ball away." Well, he should, but also the tackle's probably a yellow card as well. He absolutely cleans. I can't remember who it was, but absolutely wipes him out. Yeah.
I haven't Gundogan.
Like wipes him out, like and then goes and hoofs the ball away. It's like, oh, you've made your own bed, mate. Like I've got no sympathy, and like people are claiming that Michael Oliver's got some vendetta against Arsenal. It's like, do realize he handed you a goal, right?
Yeah. We'll go over that one. Yeah,
let's ignore that because it doesn't fit the narrative. No, like I'm not going to say Michael Oliver had a great game because I don't think he did, but I don't think there's nothing that winds me up more, and I know it's almost like a meme at this point, and I'm sure there's far too many people who actually mean it when they just come out screaming corruption. It's like, you do realize it can't be corrupt against every team because every fan base thinks that the refs are against their club. So it can't be the case because then it's equal. If it's corrupt against everyone, then it's not corrupt against anyone. Like,
we can't be at a point where we're confusing corruption for just ineptitude. Do you know what I mean? Like, or just poor performances from officials.
But even then, I don't think it was a poor performance. I think he got the decision right. No. It's the poor performance was from Trossard because he's an idiot.
Yeah. That's the thing. And like, I know like the big thing is, and I think they had more of a case to argue against Brighton in terms of like the João Pedro. João Pedro not getting booked versus Doku not getting booked in this game. Because but even so, because I've heard the argument of like, well, he's trying to kick the ball back to where the free kick should be taken from. Sure, I can understand. I can maybe buy into that, and I think there's enough reasonable doubt there to sort of just go with that as an explanation for it. But even so, like that doesn't take away. Like, you can be annoyed at the Doku thing and think the Doku thing is he should have been booked for that as well. But you can't use that as an excuse to go, well, therefore Trossard shouldn't have been sent off. So no, he should have been. Like he did it right in front of the ref. The referee's looking at him, blows his whistle too. And if you watch the replay, Trossard's almost sort of he reacts to the whistle. And I think Calafiori came out and said he didn't hear it. But like if you watch the replay, just before he leathers it, he sort of reacts. He sort of like goes. He almost like goes to stop and pull out, and then just. But it's almost like the action's too late. The brain hasn't registered.
Yeah.
That. Oh fuck! It's like his foot's already there by the ball. He's shit. Like so he knows the whistle has gone and he's launched it up the pitch. Like that's a yellow card. You're on a yellow. There's like a minute left of the half. What are you doing? I can't believe I know Arteta's not going to go after his players in press and whatnot, but he must have. But you'd like to think Arteta bollocks him for that in half time because that could have cost Arsenal the entire game. Like thankfully, for their perspective. I actually thought they defended the second half really well. Yeah, it was shit house as anything, but like to basically, being like a nearly a whole 45, 50 odd minutes away from keeping City out with 10 men. Not many teams can do that in the league. Like they so nearly got it done, and but he hadn't have done that. Who knows what could happen in the second half? Arsenal could have, sat back and played more on the counter, got a third goal, or anything, and that could have been so damaging to Arsenal's season that. I'd be tearing my hair out if I was Arsenal man. If I was Arteta and he'd done that, especially so soon after the Rice one a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Like there must have been a memo gone around the entire squad going, "Don't do dumb shit like this." 2 weeks later, someone does some dumb shit like that. Oh, Jesus Christ! But yeah, like you say, like they defended really well in the second half. They did. Like I mean, to be fair, they were playing 6-3-0. Steve Clark had a hard on. Like it was incredible. Like, but they defended it really well. They didn't allow any space. But on the flip side of that, like I've seen City fans saying Arsenal showed zero desire to play football in the second half, as you'd expect. Like, what do you want? Did you just want them to let you score? Like
Yeah,
is that what you want? Or why aren't they playing out? Well, they're down to 10 men and they're winning the game. Why do you think? Like, are you that thick? Like, like why do you think they're trying to defend this lead? Is it because if they open up, they're going to get pulled apart? But by the flip of it, Man City, like, have a look in the mirror. You had a whole half with an extra man, and you're Man City at home. Like, you should be like. I know they had a lot of shots, but it was all a load of really poor quality shots. Like, they had 30 odd shots and only just over 2 XG. Like, that just shows how poor the chances they were creating were. And yeah, like Haaland's finish was brilliant. Like, he's just an absolute mutant. And that last minute finish from Stones, bit of last kick drama. You know, you can't beat that for your Super Sunday, can you? But like,
no.
You'd have thought, and as a City fan, you'd have hoped. Look at the quality of the players we've got on the pitch there, and they're a man down. We're winning this. Like, it should have been. So like, I think there was a lot of questions asked, and it can't be the answer of, well, we didn't have Kevin De Bruyne. It's like, yeah, you got all these other amazing players. Like, Arsenal are really good, but they're not. Yeah. Arsenal are really good, but they shouldn't be coming away from that. They very nearly came away with 3 points.
Yeah.
If it weren't for a very last minute pretty lucky goal, because it wasn't a worked goal. It wasn't a brilliantly worked goal. It was a corner where it fell at the back post. Like, you know, what are you doing? Like,
and Kyrgios's done the right thing trying to block it. It's just unfortunate the way it's ricocheted off him. Because I've seen some people saying, if he doesn't try and do that, Raya probably saves it. And it's like, but you can't blame Kyrgios for trying to do his job. He doesn't know, he doesn't know what's going on.
You've got to get in the way of the ball
and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. If you're a defender, you try and block the shot. Like, you see it all the time. Like, just even the Wolves game, like for the Ollie Watkins goal, like Dawson goes in and it's his deflection that takes it in, but like he's doing the right thing. He's trying to block the shot.
Yeah,
but it's all even in that game. City should have won that game. I think Arsenal, after what happened at halftime, I think if you'd have given Arsenal 2-2 at halftime, they'd have ripped your hand off.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'd have probably ripped your hand off before the game kicked off at 2-2 away from home as well.
Yeah. It's that, isn't it? It would just sting a little bit more being like, what, a kick away?
Yeah, literally seconds away from it. Like, but it's always the way, isn't it? But it does mean that they're on even pegging, and it'll probably, well, it won't all be decided in the return fixture, but like you think there'll be a lot of weight on that, and hopefully like Arsenal play a lot more like they did in the first half, basically, where it was a lot more head to head. But we'll see how it goes. It leaves both of them up at the top of the table anyway, with some interesting company around there. I didn't realise that Chelsea were in fifth. Oh my god.
Yeah, sorry about that, but that's our fault. We'll take the blame for that one. But no, what I thought was interesting. You said like, they played 6-3-0 basically as a formation, and like I was listening to it might have been the Ramble, or it might be, I can't remember what podcast I was listening to. But someone made a really interesting point about Arteta. I think it was Andy Brassel, who's like the European football sort of journal, or one of the really good European football journalists. But he said about Arteta, it was like, it's interesting with him because he's obviously, he is a Pep disciple in the fact that he used to, work under him and stuff, and he's gone on to do his own to do his own thing in management. I feel like over the last year or two, he's becoming a lot more Mourinho than he is Pep, which I'm not mad about, to be honest. Like, in terms of what it means for the league and the sort of like what you get in terms of competition between City and Arsenal. Because what I found interesting, Bernardo Silva was quoted after the game being like, well, this is why, it was, we kind of preferred when Liverpool we were rivaling Liverpool, because at least they come and try and win the game and try and play football, and all these typical shits out like sore loser sound bites and stuff. But it's like, but that wasn't really a rivalry because there was too much respect between the two teams. It was just two really good teams playing football, and at the end of the game, oh well, good effort, see you next time, like sort of thing. Whereas this had the right amount of bite to it, had the right amount of needle to it because of Arsenal's shithousing essentially. And it's what you used to get with like when Mourinho was in the league at Chelsea. I'm not saying Arteta's on the same level tactically as Mourinho was back then, like in his peak sort of thing. But the things he's willing to do to get his team over the line, and what that means, like I say, just for sort of a title race and a competition and stuff, I think it's going to be mint. because like I don't think that him and the other players don't and shouldn't care what anyone else thinks. And it's almost like Mourinho's thing when he was at Chelsea. You hear like Lampard and I talk about it all the time. Was he sort of made everyone's mentality of it's us against everyone else. It's us against everyone hates us because we've got all this money, but all these players, blah blah blah. Everyone hates us. Let's use that, channel it, and it feels like Arsenal and Arteta is doing that as well. They're always happy to be the villain, which when you look at previous title races way back when it was like Wenger v Fergie and like Mourinho v Fergie and like all these other and Wenger versus Mourinho and stuff, where like you tune in going like the game might be good, but it's going to be a punch up. like I'm kind of now looking forward to these Arsenal City games because that could be a thing. And it, like I say, you saw it all kick off at the end of the game, and like I say with the Haaland with the bouncing the ball off the geezer's head, and like what was it, Havertz wiping out Rodri in the first 5 seconds. Like it's great as a neutral. That's what you want to see. Like I'm all for it.
I really like Haaland. He's an absolute piss boiler. Like,
yeah,
what a bloke. Well, you just mentioned Rodri there. Actually, it's coming out that I don't know if it's not being confirmed, but a lot of the rumors are like he's actually done his ACL.
I thought it at the time when I was watching the game. Like when you see him on the floor and like you could. It looked pretty innocuous, like the contacts and the way he went over. Like when you see that, because when it first happened, you think, "Oh, get up, you fanny." But then, like you see the replay, and it's like, "Oh, okay."
Buckles, like,
yeah, and then you sort of see his reaction when he's on the floor, and I think you can just tell players know that something's happened because he's usually there's a pop, right, like in the knee. And when he walked off, I said in my Discord, I was like, "I think he's probably done his ACL here," and someone was like, "Oh yeah, but surely he wouldn't just walk off from that." I was like, "Mate, I saw Bonner do his ACL like 2 years ago, and he played another 10 minutes afterwards." It can happen, but that's massive. Like on both sides of the coin, right, for City and for Arsenal in terms of him not being available, because it's been well documented how important he is to City and how they play and what they like without him.
Well, he's the best player in that position in the world. Like,
yeah,
and he is he's everything for that City team that Busquets was for that all-conquering Barca side. And he's kind of like taken that mantle for Spain as well, right? Like he's such an important player, and whilst City have got tons of very, very good players, we saw it last year. Like they didn't win a game that he didn't play in last year.
Yeah,
obviously he missed a few games at the start of the season, and they did okay. Kovacic has kind of filled in a little bit there. They've obviously got Gundogan back as well, who can play that slightly deeper role, and maybe will be asked to do that. John Stones can move into midfield, like into a deeper midfield role, because he has the ability. Obviously, he's not the same player, but he has the ability to take the ball and be a solid defensive player as well as a good ball progressor. So they've got players to do it, but it could be massive that for the title race. It might just mean that City get 5 or 6 fewer points, and it's just whether the teams around them can keep up with it and make up that difference.
I think that's the big thing, like, because City don't really drop that many, like especially when it gets to like crunch time in the second half of the season. And it feels like Rodri was not only important in terms of what he could do on the ball and his technical ability, but just as a leader on the pitch. I know he's not the captain, is Kyle Walker for some reason, but like you feel like he's a real leader in the middle of that park and sort of just keeps everything ticking over. And he's got, I was going to say, one of the few players in the City team who has it. Like they've obviously all got a winning mentality because they play under Pep regularly. Like it's been instilled in them, but there's just, we like winning. We'd like to keep doing that. And then there's what I imagine Rodri is just like, no, I'm demanding we win everything. And almost sort of say, like, it's what you saw from all the best players in the Fergie era at United, right?
Yeah.
Like a bunch of those players had that, where it was like standards and like we are expected to win, therefore we are going to win. And if we don't win this year, we're going to come back 10 times better next season, sort of thing. I think that's the one player in that City team you get that vibe from is Rodri.
I think De Bruyne has that about him. Like he's like very perfectionist, kind of like you see him getting pissed off when things aren't going right. But he missed half of last season. He didn't play the last game. He's picking up more and more injuries. Like how reliably in the team is he going to be? It could be big. I think Haaland's got a similar mentality, but I don't think they're going to stick the armband on him.
No,
they probably can't find one big enough. But it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it if that is the case. Obviously, I don't want to see him miss the season. I don't want to see a really good player get injured. But it might mean that the title charge is at least a little bit more open. So it's going to be interesting that. Well, we'll move on from the tie of the week, I guess, to a little bit of other news. Like, we've got a few to talk about. We'll come on to the Everton news in a little bit. But Forest, I thought, played really, really well again. Obviously, went out of 10 men. Another team that went out of 10 men. We kind of discussed it a little bit earlier, but 2-2 against the really, really good Brighton side. They are massively overachieving. Or maybe they're not even overachieving. They're just because they've got very good players. They're just not as quite batshit as they were last year, and they're playing some good football. Chris Wood scoring goals, which is mental. He's always seemed like one of those players who will score 5 or 6 goals in a season, but in 5 or 6 games, and then the rest of the season does nothing. But like last season, he was getting pretty consistent for them. He started this season really well. I really like the players they've got in and around him, in Callum Hudson-Odoi. It's nice to see him actually getting some football again. Anthony Elanga, who has settled in that team really well. I liked him at United. I completely understand why they moved him on, but I think he fits in that side really well. Morgan Gibbs-White's a cracking player. Like, I think they've got a good setup there. There's some really good players. I thought the signings they've made in the summer have been really good. I thought they've brought in some good players there. And yeah, like the kind of the shock of, not fully the shock of the season. It's like you say, it's still very early, but to have won 2, drawn 3, unbeaten after playing some tough sides, it's a really good start from, isn't it?
Yeah, really good. I think the shock from it, I think a lot of people wrote Forest off, myself included, because of Nuno. I think Nuno obviously had a disaster at Tottenham, and whilst he had a really good sort of first 3 years at Wolves, the last year was pretty underwhelming. And then when he went in at Forest to replace Cooper, it felt like a bit of a sideways step in terms of quality manager. But like you say, the recruitment's been really good, and he's gotten some play. It feels like he's setting them up to play just to play at the best players' strengths. Which I know sounds like a very simple thing to do, but it's amazing how many managers don't do that. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and try and fit like square pegs and round holes and stuff. It looks like he's just doing the bare basics of just like, right, these like 4 or 5 players are mint. Let's just create a system that just allows them to flourish. And like you say, and to be fair, it's like a lot of teams in the Premier League. They've just got a very good, great attacking plays. Like you say, it's great for Callum Hudson-Odoi to finally be showing some of that promise that he had when he was coming through at Chelsea. And even their defense has improved this year. Like Milenkovic is a really solid sign-in. And you know they've got and is it Murillo who's the centre back for them? Who's just
Murillo's really good. Like I really like Milenkovic signing. I'm surprised a bigger team didn't come in for him, because he really impressed with the Euros. Surprised. He's been great for Fiorentina for years. But they brought in Moreno from Villa as well. Matt Sells in goal as well, who's been a really, really good performer. So yeah, it's just good business. Obviously beat Liverpool last week, and after 5 games they're undefeated. I thought they might struggle this year. I thought they might be one of the teams that were down, struggling at the bottom end of the table, but they've started really well. Their new players have bedded in quite well, and yeah, like if they can keep it going, if you can keep these level of performances, they'll be fine. Like I don't think they'll be anywhere near that. I don't think they're going to be challenging top 8, top 6. No. But they're not going to be bottom 5, 6. Like I think they'll be a solid mid-table side, and they might actually take that Crystal Palace spot where they always finish 12th somehow. Because I mean, like I say, they didn't play very well. We couldn't finish our chances, but Palace have had a torrid start to the season and look a little bit lost. It's as well as they played at the end of last year. I think those couple of players who've left, it's left a big hole, and they've not really replaced them. We've seen how well Elise's playing at Bayern. He is a phenomenal player, and that's going to leave a big gap, as they can't do all the heavy lifting, basically, can he? So it's a little bit concerning. But talking kind of other teams down the bottom end of the table as well, Wolves have had another poor performance. They're slap bottom of the table with 1 point from 5 games and -9 goal difference. Obviously lost 3-1 to Villa. I mean, the saving grace is they have played some tough sides.
Yeah.
So like the last few games, like obviously lost 3-1 to Villa, 3-2 against Brighton. It's a very good Brighton side. Lost 2-1 to Newcastle, who were shite this year, by the way. Like every game I've watched, they've been awful, but they just win. They actually just they got the defeat, the tonking they deserved for the last few weeks at the weekend. But tough games against tough teams. You saw it in the interview after the game. It's like Gary O'Neill basically saying, we can't keep coming out of dominant periods of games with nothing to show for it, because it's a tough league, and if teams are taking their opportunities and we're squandering all ours, it's just never going to end well. I think they've got a decent squad. I quite like the business they've brought in, but again, it's just another team that like Palace, like when you lose one or two really key cogs in that system, it's going to be tough to keep at the performances. And I wonder whether they're another one of those teams that, has happened to other teams like Southampton in the past and Leicester, and you let too many of those really important players leave, and you just end up with a bit of a fragile squad. I like some of the players they've got. I think Cunha's really good. I quite like the look of Larson as well up top. He looks like he's a bit of a handful. Lamine has always been a good Premier League quality player, but I just think defensively they'll look a bit shaky. Johnston's a really solid Premier League goalkeeper, but it feels like they've been consistently downgrading the quality of their squad further and further down the Premier League table.
Yeah, absolutely.
From what I felt was a solid top 10, maybe pushing for Europe 3 or 4 years ago, it's just like every year it's like, okay, maybe you're mid-table now, or maybe you're lower mid-table now, and it's like, I can see you in a relegation fight. As good as some of the players are, it's tough down there.
They've suffered from really bad recruitment over the last few years, I think. Like, you think of the money spent on players like Fabio Silva, Gonçalo Guedes. I think big money was spent on him. I think it was like 50 odd million, and he's not done anything. Like, it's tough for them, because I think like you say, to be a team coming from the Championship, and to maintain where they were, you have to get your recruitment right. And I just don't. And because unfortunately, I think the links with Mendes has actually ended up coming around and biting him in the arse, because the last few players he did bring through, like those two in particular, just haven't worked. And so there's a point where you kind of have to shift them off for not really recouping any of the money you spent on them. Like, it's going to have an impact, and it's well documented that the owner's got financial issues there, and there's not as much funding available. Like, it's been very well documented. And you look at like some of the more important players in that squad, like Craig Dawson. Like, I love the bloke, but he's not getting any younger. And as good as he was for us in a low block, backs against the wall type team, I don't know if Wolves are necessarily that. And I think there's more opportunities for him to get exposed in a team that's a little bit more expansive, plays a little bit higher up the pitch, and that might be an issue long term for later on down the line. Been the one saving grace for them in terms of their business this year. Like you say, I think Larson does look really promising. I mean, I'm really interested to see how he kicks on. But I think Andre, that new sort of defensive midfielder they brought, obviously really highly rated, was linked with Liverpool for ages and then Fulham for ages. Now end up at Wolves. If he can click in that team and Wolves stay up and he continues to develop under them, that's a player that they got there that they can move on for like 60, 70, 80 million, in the future, if he ends up living up to that promise. And then that can kind of help them reset a little bit and just plug some of the holes in the squad overall. But it's a big gamble on a young kid from Brazil, right? And if he was that good, would he be Liverpool already? Or is what I mean? Like,
and also, is it just history repeating itself where you'd sell your best player every year?
Yeah, that's it as well. Like
it's not like they've. I mean, they have invested well. Like I say, I like the play. I like Cunha, who's come in. Larson's been good. Lamine has been a good signing. I like Gomez next to Andre. Defensively, they look a bit. I really like Ait Nouri, but obviously, like Dawson and Mosquera as a back two, it's fine. Like I say, Dawson's not getting any younger. Mosquera's, I don't know. I've not seen enough of him to have a proper opinion of him, but he's not blown me away whenever I have seen him. And obviously, losing Max Kilman, the captain, and like the rock at that defense, has hit them really hard, as you'd expect it to. As well as losing the winger to Chelsea, who's
Neto, of course,
Pedro Neto. Granted, he misses half a season every year through injury anyway. Even so, like, he is a very good player, and like losing basically your two best players, like I say, it's very reminiscent of that Southampton team who just kept selling all the best players and thinking they can replace it with young players from Europe and develop them, and all that ends up happening is you just get relegated with a really young side. So yeah, it could be worrying times for Wolves, but the saving grace is there's two of the teams on 1 point. You've got Ipswich, Palace, Leicester, who are only on 3 points after 5 games as well. So it's not. It's only after only 5 games anyway. Like there's nothing to panic around right now.
No,
you just need to start picking up some more points. Like I say, with and it's not been easy fixtures. Let's be honest. Like getting a point against Forest, who we were just bigging up, like is a decent result. But also getting about 33 goals put past you by Chelsea, it's not a deal.
It's kind of like I said this. I keep bringing it back to West Ham. I keep remember points that I wanted to make. But like, is that thing is that you can get away with losing, like say, like the likes of Arsenal and Villa and Brighton and stuff like that. But it's when you are coming against those teams that are more in around you, like your Leicesters, your like Brentford and Ipswich and teams like that. It's like that's when you really need to be, because no one really had Wolves strike with relegation this year. Those are the sort of games you kind of need to win. Like I say, I think West Ham, and it's like if I'm back in 4 weeks' time, West Ham picks up wins against like Ipswich and Brentford and teams like that, then I might start hitting the panic button, and that's maybe when Wolves should as well. But yeah, like I say, it's very very early days, I think, and I think it's so difficult because every Premier League team has players that have been playing in international tournaments all summer. So it feels like no one's really at their best at the moment. Like, I know it seems like a bit of a cop-out excuse, but like, facts are there, right? Like, everyone's playing so much football at the moment. I don't think you're going to see many teams really cooking at full capacity until like second half of the season, really.
Yeah, and just a lot of change as well, like across the board. Like a lot of new managers, a lot of new players, a lot of players, like you say, who've been away at international duties. A lot of players coming back from injuries, and it could be a bit of a tumultuous season, like with a lot of twists and turns still to come, I'm sure. Continuing our discussion of teams down at the bottom, I did just mention Everton there. It's been confirmed today that an offer's been accepted. It's not gone through yet. Obviously, there'll be like the fit and proper people's test. I forget the name of the group, but it's the same people who own Roma. So that looks like that's happened. That looks like that kind of whole issue that's been going on at Everton for the last 2 or 3 years is finally getting resolved, which is good for Everton. I've said it in the past, like I've got a bit of a soft spot for Everton. Like they're a massively historical club, but with a team that is suffering from a lack of investment. And I know like new owners straight away, they can't do anything right now anyway because the transfer window is closed. But if they can bring in 1 or 2 faces in January, as long as Dyche can keep Everton there or thereabouts, they might be okay. And if nothing else, it's just a bit of a bit of light at the end of the tunnel for Everton fans as well, like who've been through it. They've obviously got this nice new stadium that they're going to be moving into, but other than that, like every year getting rid of your best players, every like minimal like top level investment. Obviously they bring players in and they're trying to get good young players to develop. But it's been tough for them, and you can tell like a lot of that recruitment of young players just really hasn't worked when Seamus Coleman and Ashley Young are still starting at fullbacks.
Yeah, I think it's Blue Heaven Holdings and the Friedkin Group, who are coming in, who have like say reached an agreement for a majority stake in the club. I think echo everything you said. I think it's just going to hopefully remove that black cloud that's been over that club for far too long now. Hopefully puts an end to future points deductions. I know they could still get hit for stuff that happened last season and whatnot, but like in terms of points deductions, even later on down the line, hopefully puts an end to that, and it just sets them up to be a little bit more stable moving forward. Because make no mistake about it, like I'm not gonna sit here and say Moshiri's like the worst owner in the country when the news of what's been going on at Reading and other clubs like that have happened this week. But in terms of the Premier League, Moshiri's been mismanaging Everton for a very long time, ever since. It looked like he struck gold when he had Ancelotti and Rodriguez there, but ever since then, it's just been downhill. They've overspent on too many average crap players and spent way too much on wages, and it's come back to cost. It's come back to bite them, and it's been costing them for the last couple of seasons. And they're very, very lucky that in the past couple of years there's been either three worse teams, or they've got in a good manager like Dyche, or you had Frank Lampard who just managed to vibe his way to safety a couple of years ago. So. Yeah, I think hopefully for Everton's sake now they can just I think Everton had nearly went. Obviously, Newcastle went down a couple of times under Ashley, and I do think Ashley was obviously a worse owner than Mashiri has been. But I think Everton now with this new ownership model, you'd hope that for them they just have a couple of years or like 3, 4, 5 years of just being boring and mid-table. Do you know what I mean? Like just have a couple of years of just you're not in danger of going down. You're not going to be pushing anywhere for Europe. And I think Everton fans at the moment would snap your hand off for that because it must have been last 5 years must be bloody awful for them. Like there's always someone on again. I can't remember if it was on a podcast or on Twitter or whatever. But it was like an Everton fan saying it's like this is what they do to you. So it's like you're turning up against Bournemouth with like 10 minutes to go, and they give you some hope, and then they just fucking knock you down again. Or it's like you're turning up against Villa, and it's just like they find a way to draw you back in, and then just like make you feel even worse than you did before. So hopefully that feeling for Everton fans can shift under this new ownership.
Yeah, I mean, and as well, like the last couple of results, they obviously got the draw against Southampton the other day, got a draw against Leicester yesterday, or was it on Saturday? And like, it feels like a rinse and repeat thing for me. Like, I thought they played well. Like, I thought Everton played pretty well. I thought they played pretty well in a lot of games last year. I think they played it pretty well in a lot of the games so far this year. It's just individual errors and not finishing their chances, and it's the needs. The one thing that gives me hope, would give me hope if I was an Everton fan, is that Calvert-Lewin seems to have remembered how to hit the back of the net a little bit. Obviously, he's missed a couple of really good chances, but 5 games in, he's got himself a couple of goals and an assist. Like, and he's looking fit again. He's looking motivated again. If you can just shore things up at the back a little bit more, obviously they've been rocked with injuries to their first choice fullbacks, and I like obviously they've lost Onana in midfield. I like the Mangala signing. I think that's a really good pickup. Garner's a good player who can come into the midfield. Like, I've said it a few times, I think it is very much a championship side, but they've got a manager who knows how to work with that level of player. And I think if you can get them ticking, get them all playing off the same hymn sheet, and get things going in the right direction, they might be all right. I think the relegation zone is going to be an interesting one this year because I think there's going to be a lot of teams around it. There's a lot of teams who are going to be playing better than their position at the bottom of that table, I think, especially with the newly promoted sides, as well as some of them are playing. And I'd roll Ipswich into that. I think Ipswich are playing very well, and you do need to bear in mind the quality of the opponents they've had the first 5 games.
Absolutely,
but I think the quality of the players will tell over the course of the season, and it might just be a case of, all right, well, Everton have got a similar squad to a lot of these players, but they've got Calvert-Lewin up top and they've got Pickford in goal. And this Ndiaye lad looks pretty exciting. Like,
I was going to say I like the look of Ndiaye. Looks really, really good.
Yeah, he's just a bit of a live wire. Like, just something that they've missed a little bit up top. Someone who can make something out of nothing and beat a man and get a bit of space. Like, if they can keep him fit, if Calvert-Lewin can stay fit, and Pickford and that centre back setup that they've got. Obviously, they're still missing Branthwaite. If they can get Tarkowski and Branthwaite playing like they did last year with Pickford behind, they will shore up.
Yeah,
and they're looking like they can at least score a goal this year, which they just look like they couldn't do at all last year. So we'll see how it goes over the course of the season. There was one other little question, not necessarily a hot take, from Keeney, regular contributor. He says it was not such a hot take, but with the first international break being and gone, back-to-back league duty, what one thing has gone well for your teams, and what one thing would you change? I mean, we've kind of gone over it a little bit with the talking about the games that happened over the weekend and stuff like that. And I realise I'm completely butchered reading that out, but it's late.
They get it. It's fine.
Yeah. No one's listening at this point anyway.
If you're listening, you're all adults. You can figure it out.
Yeah, you can figure it out. Just take those words that came out of my mouth, and arrange them in a sensible way that makes sense in the English language. Basically, exactly. It's only 5 games, but we've seen 5 games in the league. What would you like to see change? Like, would it be? Do you think someone's playing a little bit too much? Would you like to see someone given a bit of an extra chance? Would you like just obviously a midfielder to be in midfield and not have people run through the middle of
Yeah.
it. As a United fan, watching my team do that last year, it's a lot better when they don't do that, as evidenced this year.
Yeah. I love the way you framed the question because generally since international break we've been crap. So it's like, well, I'm sitting there going, what has gone well? I think in terms of things I'd like to change, I'll cheat and fold 2 answers into 1. But like, I'd like to see Tadibo and Fulkrug. Once Fulkrug is back from injury, I'd like to see him get around the team. Like, there's concerns over Tadibo's fitness, but you've got to give him an opportunity to get match fit eventually, right? And I think Mavropanos has shown in the last couple of games that whilst he's had a decent start to season up until this point, he is still quite erratic and just has brain fart moments. And look, we've committed to spending 40 million quid on Tadibo, who was the best defender in League One last year and a very highly sought after defender. Like, I think it's now time to get him in the team. Like, what's the worst going to happen? We're going to concede more goals. We're conceding goals anyway. We might as well get this guy up to fitness and and get him playing to the best of his ability as quickly as we can for the long-term benefits of the team. So getting those 2 involved, plus I want to see Fulkrug just flourish because everyone's writing him off and I'm getting annoyed by it. So that'd be my thing. In terms of things we've done well, yeah, we're getting more of the new signings integrated. So actually no, to be fair, I've got one thing. Lopetegui's shown that he's not afraid to make changes when it's obviously going badly. Like, saw against Fulham, rectified the mistake with the starting 11, and saw against Chelsea didn't mind making a sub half an hour into the game, which it doesn't mean that he gets let off the hook for what happened on Saturday, but it is still like a good sign, I think, that a manager is looking at it and going, "I fucked it here. We need to. I'm not going to wait around till half time. We need to, he's being he's being proactive rather than reactive, which I think is a good thing. So I'll go with that.
No, fair enough. For United, what's gone well? I just think our results have not reflected our performances at all so far this season. And nothing shows that more than the Palace game. I said it about the Liverpool game. I thought, I don't think Man United deserved to win that game at all. I think Liverpool deserved to win the game. But I think the fact that all 3 of their chances came from mistakes rather than them playing through us, I think that's something that we can take. I really like the signings. I think De Ligt's come in, look mint. I think Mazraoui looks mint. I hope he stays fit. Mazraoui for 15 million might be the steal of the transfer window. As long as he can, like I say, stay fit. And the play, I think we've been playing really good football. Definitely the best football we've had since Ten Hag's come in. Obviously, having players fit and available has helped that massively. But it just seems like there's more of a structure, more of a belief, more of an understanding of what everyone's supposed to be doing. The negative is literally just we don't seem to be able to finish our chances at the minute. The form of Bruno is a bit of a concern, but yeah, I think if we keep playing this way, we will win more games than we'll lose.
Yeah,
we're sure a lot more sure in ourselves defensively. We're not letting teams kind of just walk through our midfield anymore. And I think having Ugarte coming in at that midfield is going to help as well. But just that partnership of De Ligt and Martinez, regardless of whether he's trying to get himself sent off, is just a really top level centre back partnership. I think, and I think when everyone's fit, even if it is a case of Dalot playing on the left and Mazraoui on the right, and Luke Shaw doesn't get fit, Dalot's been really good, especially coming into that midfield and making the extra man in midfield and dictating play. He's a very good footballer. He's doing that bit of a João Cancelo thing that he was doing at Man City, just becoming the extra midfielder in possession. I think that's I think if everyone's fit and firing on form, I think it's a top 4 backline at least. It's just whether we can start getting our forwards finishing the chances that we're creating. So yeah, there's a load of Man United fans up in arms and throwing the baby out with the bathwater already and he's obviously not good enough, or else why would they have looked at managers? It's if he wasn't good enough, they'd have got a different manager, wouldn't they? So let's just settle down. We'll get a few wins under our belt, and we've got the European nights to look forward to as well, which is going to be fun.
After Europa League, just on that very quickly, do you think Casemiro being taken out of the team has helped from a defensive standpoint? Because obviously he hasn't started since the Liverpool game, has he? I don't think.
No, he's been out of the lineup the last few games. He did play against Barnsley, and actually did play. I know it was against Barnsley, but did actually play really well. He was a bit more reserved, a bit more kind of holding his position. I don't think him and Mainu as a partnership work that well. I could see him and Ugarte working together like a lot, because I think he's actually looked fine when he's allowed to play a little bit higher at the pitch and play those little 1-2s and through balls and almost be like a second number 10 at times. Like he's a really technically proficient footballer. I just don't think he's got the I don't think he's got the physicality anymore to do that sole number 6 job.
Yeah,
him next to Ugarte, who could be a bit more of a screening player, could work. I almost feel like it would be, you have your partnerships that work in midfield. It could be Mainu and Ugarte, or Casemiro and Ugarte, or Mainu and Eriksen, but I just don't think the Mainu and Casemiro thing works, because I think whilst they're not the same player, they like to play in similar areas now. Mainu likes to beat that first man of a press and be playing little intricate balls into spaces, and Casemiro, whilst he's not going to beat a man with a dribble, he likes to move into those half spaces and try and knit things a little bit higher at the park. So hopefully Ugarte coming in and getting match fit will just aid that, and even if it is his last year, or even he moves in January or something, like, he's still going to get game time because we don't have a whole load of midfielders. The nice surprise actually has been Eriksen. Last few games has actually played really well, and I thought he, like I said, really controlled the game the weekend. Just kept things ticking over. He's an incredibly good technical footballer. He's just not got the physicality anymore. But if you can have an Ugarte next to him, or a Mainu who can have a bit of the legs, or having your first choice backline and having Martinez and De Ligt around him, like, it does mean that there's less pressure on him having to charge around and win tackles and stuff. So yeah, it's still a work in progress. The Man United midfield.
Trust the process.
Trust. We are Process FC right now. Yeah. Well, it's been, as always, fantastic talking the weekend's football with you, Mr. Breezy. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you are liking, sharing, subscribing, thumbs upping, starring, whatever you do on whatever platform you watch or listen to us on. We do appreciate it. We'll be back again next week. We'll have some European football to talk about next week as well, actually, as well as the next round of fixtures. Don't forget, go give us a follow at United Frontcast on all your social network providers. But if you want to get involved on the hot takes and stuff, come and join on our Discords. You can find links to that on Twitter, I'm sure. And also replying to our hot takes tweet. Get involved with us. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.